Have you ever been faced with a health challenge that left you wondering whether there was anything at all you would have done to avoid it? Perhaps you have had a loved one, a relative, a friend even, who has gone through some challenging times health-wise, and you wondered if there was anything at all you could do to support them. Have you ever wondered whether the way you're eating, the exercises you're doing, the way you're living your life in general is working for or against your health? Is there anything we can do to improve our lifespan? Have you heard of the term health span? Is there a difference? Yes, there is. Health span, according to Dr. Peter Attia, is living a longer, healthier life as opposed to just a long life with many complications. If you're new to my channel, welcome. On this channel, we usually focus on self-awareness and midlife awareness, especially for women. But today, I shall be reviewing Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia, The Science and Art of Longevity. This book is an eye-opener. This is a book that is full of wisdom. He took his time to write this book. He discusses some medications and pillars of medicine that you probably have never heard about. So what I did is take my time to get the key points from this book for a regular folk like me, for people who are not in the healthcare space and who do not understand all the technical terms. So this video will have little to no technical terms. But if you're interested in reading this book, in going into the depths of what Dr. Peter Attia explains about improving our health span, improving our lifespan, taking care of our health in ways that we probably have not considered, then I ask you to get a hold of this book, if you can afford it. Also, look it up in your libraries and ask your libraries to purchase a copy which you can borrow. If you're not an ardent reader, and if there's only one book that I would ask you to pick up, it is this book, because it will have a tremendous impact on your life, if, of course, you follow the advice that he gives on this book. Dr. Peter Attia is rethinking medicine so that we can live better for longer. And I have taken my notes. I'm looking at my laptop because there's so much. I honestly cannot remember everything that he talks about on this book, from my head. And I have read this book twice over. And I don't know, I'll probably be reading this book a few more times in the years to come. So the key points on this book are prevention over cure, lifestyle pillars that we can use to make our health better, actionable guidelines, and he integrates science and storytelling, making it an awesome book to read or listen to. So, prevention over cure, he argues for early screening for what he calls the 4 horsemen. Those are the 4 diseases or categories of diseases that mainly affect people, especially when we are a little older. That is heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, like Alzheimer's, dementia, and type 2 diabetes, and all other diseases that actually affect us in our later years, as opposed to waiting until symptoms are showing or it is obvious to the doctors that something is wrong and we get to catch these diseases. The second category he looks at is lifestyle pillars. What is most important in our lifestyles that we can do to prevent, because his focus is prevention as opposed to cure. Cure, well, necessary when you have the disease, but how can we prevent it? And his lifestyle pillars are not new to us. It's something that you have heard, but in this book you'll hear about it from a very different perspective. And that is regular exercise, diet, sleep, and emotional well-being. Don't roll your eyes. Many people tend to think that emotional well-being is not, or mental health is not as important, but he will prove to you, and especially to the men, to the males who, well, most of them don't tend to pay a lot of attention to their mental health. Well, this is a dude telling you and showing you how he took it lightly, even as a medical doctor, until, well, he learned the hard way. The third key point that Dr. Peter Attia looks at is actionable guidance. The book encourages readers to create their own Centenarian Decathlon. What does that mean? It's a list of physical tasks you'd like to accomplish if you were to live to 100 years, to set concrete, personalized fitness goals. The fourth is he integrates science and storytelling. So he uses a lot of medical terms. He's a doctor and surgeon, and so for the doctors and those in the healthcare space, they'll find informative. But for the ordinary folks like you and me, he makes complex scientific concepts accessible and relevant for everyday life by presenting case studies and outcomes and proof of what he's talking about. This blend of proactive healthcare strategies and practical steps is designed to empower you to take control of your long-term health, helping you not only add years to your life, but life to your years. So I'm going to approach the review of this book in a very brief manner because I do not want to preempt, and obviously I can't, to be honest, I cannot preempt this book because he goes into details about almost everything that he talks about, but in a very nice storytelling kind of way that you can read. I want you to feel enticed to get this book and read it. And this is the one book that, if you're an ardent reader like me, this is the one book that you do not even want to lend to your friend because you don't want to lose it. I will go chapter by chapter, giving you a very quick rundown of what to expect in every chapter, and then it will be up to you to see whether I'll have convinced you to grab a hold of this book and read it. If this book doesn't impact your life just by reading it, I don't know what I can say. That would be impossible. It has a big impact on how you think about your health span after you read it. So let's dive in. So chapter 1, he calls it the long game. He looks at how to move from fast death to slow death. He starts with a quote from Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. There comes a point where we need to stop pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. How does this apply to, slowing death? Dr. Peter Attia will continue to explain it. Stopping people from falling into the river of disease by prevention. That's what he means. Most deaths come from long-term conditions like heart disease, cancer, diabetes. They are slow killers. That means they start developing and slowly do so and only become evident after a long time. So after we have lived with these diseases for a long time, they are finally visible and obvious and we have symptoms, and then we run to the doctor. How can we prevent that from happening? That's what he tackles in chapter 1. It's not just about living longer, it's about living well. That is, taking small and early interventions to delay the onset of disease by starting preventive habits as soon as possible to build lasting resilience. Chapter 2, he introduces us to what he calls Medicine 3.0, rethinking healthcare. He looks at proactive personalized care, individually shift from reacting to illnesses to preventing it. What works for you may not work for me in most times. Better outcomes arise when we are active in our own healthcare strategy. He looks at the limitations of traditional medicine and he proposes a new approach, which he calls Medicine 3.0, one that focuses on early risk assessment and lifestyle change. As you read on, he was like, why don't doctors prescribe exercise, instead of medications? Maybe at some point, even a gym membership should be prescribed and able to be paid for by your health insurance, right? How about doctors and Medicare practitioners educating patients so that they can make informed decisions towards their own health? Understanding your personal risks will empower you to choose better preventive steps. Chapter 3 looks at objective, strategy, and tactics. He calls it the roadmap. He gives a clear framework laying out strategies and actionable tactics, the why and how that will make a health plan easier to follow for you and your healthcare provider. He reckons, success requires a combination of exercise, nutrition, sleep, and emotional health. He emphasizes that over and over in the chapters. Longevity isn't one-dimensional. It's a blend of many health habits. You and I need to tailor the approach to fit our individual health styles and goals. A customized plan is more sustainable and effective. Chapter 4 is where he introduces the centenarians. He looks at the centenarians, people who live to 100 and beyond. What are their lifestyles? Is it what they eat? Is it what they drink? Is it what they do? Do they exercise? Do they not? Is it in their genes? Why do they live that long? Are their long lives healthy all the time? Do they encounter disease? Who lives longer, men or women, and why? That is what chapter 4 will tackle. A very interesting chapter I found. People who live to 100 tend to develop chronic diseases much later. Both genetics and lifestyle can shift the timeline for disease onset. Even modest improvements can compound over a lifetime, like we know when it comes to exercise and diet and everything else. Consistency in healthy habits pays off. So what you're doing now for your exercise routines, for your regimen, what you're doing now with your sleep habits, what you're doing now with your diet may not seem to be much day to day, but if you continue doing that, it compounds over decades. And as you get older, you will now be able to observe the results even better because it helps. Every workout counts. Every fast counts. Your family history also plays a role and can help guide you personalize your health strategy. Chapter 5 looks at the science of hunger and health. He calls it Eat Less, Live Longer. Should we do that? Here he talks about an adventure he took a while back with some colleagues in the medical field and friends, and they went to explore a place where people tend to live longer and some sort of medicine had been discovered there, and they wanted to find out, is it true? Does it work? So he's not just writing a book out of research papers, which are many that he has read and refers to a lot. He has also invested his own personal time to go to places where many of us will never be, to find out, were the roots of this medicine real and do they work? And he wanted to find out for himself. So that's what he looks at chapter 5. And the big question here is, if we eat less and we live longer, moderating calorie intake can reduce the risk of chronic diseases. Eating less isn't about deprivation. No, it's a tool to boost cellular repair, allowing your cells to take a break, to relax, and also to consume all the stored up calories that have been kept away because you haven't used them, you haven't burnt them. Autophagy is good for your body, letting that break down. Lately, there's a lot of many forms of dieting. It's almost trending, but are we doing it the right way? Is it even necessary? Those are the kind of questions that you will find answered in chapter 5 of this book. Lower calories can slow aging by affecting pathways like mTORs and promoting autophagy. Your diet directly influences how well your cells maintain and repair themselves. Food quality also counts. It's not only how much you eat, but what you eat that matters. Prioritize nutrient-dense whole foods over empty calories, like white bread and snacks and all the kind of stuff that we eat nowadays. Processed foods, those are all empty. How about we just focus more on whole foods, vegetables, nutrient-dense foods? If you're finding what we are talking about that concerns your health helpful, I'm gonna ask you to subscribe to this channel and share it. Leave a comment down here. Tell me what you would want to know more about. Have you read this book? Have you come across it? What was most intriguing to you? I would like to know in the comments, and I promise I'll get back. I enjoy reading those comments, and I will reply to as many as I can. So don't forget to leave a comment and to subscribe and to share. Chapter 6 tackles the question of abundance, the times that we live in, the too many options, too much food. This is not what our ancestors were used to. This is what we eat today is the diets that we have today do not look anything like what our ancestors did. And how does that affect our life, our health span? Our bodies are not built for today's calorie-rich processed foods. Chapter 7, he calls it, the ticker is preventing heart disease. Heart disease is the world's leading cause of death. And he explains why that should not be. It is possible to prevent heart disease. It should not be the leading cause of death. Preventive measures can drastically reduce your risk. Monitoring markers like ApoB, you will learn what that is, LDL, cholesterol, provides a clear picture of cardiovascular risk. Understanding these numbers will help you and your doctor make better choices. Chapter 8, he calls it the runaway cell, new ways to address the killer that is cancer. And he quotes Germany's Margaret Thatcher, "You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it." And I don't know if there's anyone who has not been affected in one way or another by cancer, either yourself, either a loved one, a friend. When I read this book last year, it was new, and this chapter was very hard for me to read because at that time I had a friend who was fighting cancer, and unfortunately she lost the battle, colon cancer, and it was hard for me to understand because I also have family members and other friends who have had to fight these diseases. Some have lost it, some have overcome it, and just getting the details of how these diseases work, how these cells find their way through our bodies, and also knowing that it is possible to prevent in some cases. There are some cancers that can be cured. We know that now if it is caught early, and why Dr. Peter Attia really emphasizes on early screening and what tests can be done, how far can we go, and what can you do if you're living, if you're fighting this disease? What can you do to keep you carrying on? Chapter 8 is a mind-blowing one to read, as hard as it may be, especially if you're fighting cancer. It might be a hard one to read, but it also may be one that encourages you not to give up on the battle. If you or your loved one are going through this, or you and your loved ones, are going through this battle together, this chapter will give you a lot of insights you probably don't already have, and will encourage you to keep fighting. Don't give up, because you never know. Sometimes, miraculously, the body is able to cure itself. It is possible, and there has been cases that have been recorded. You probably even know some, and yet sometimes for others, they are unable to fight it, and they succumb to it. So that's what chapter 8 is all about. He explains to us that once cancer takes hold, it's hard to treat. Prevention is critical. Catching cancer early can have a huge difference in outcomes. A coordinated approach is necessary to tackle the complexity of cancer. That's all I'm going to say about this, because I'm not an expert or anything, and I know that it is sensitive. But like I said earlier, this chapter will encourage you to keep fighting if you or your loved ones are going through the treatment for any form of cancer. We move on to chapter 9, which looks at our brains and how we can protect our brain, our memories, cognitive decline from diseases like Alzheimer's and dementias and other forms of dementia as we age. Exercise and diet improve the body as well as the brain. Engaging in challenging mental activities, regular exercise builds a buffer against decline. And he also looks at stimulating lifestyles, to help protect your memory and thinking skills, especially as we get older, or especially for your older relatives. It is important for them to continue to be active physically and mentally, learning a musical instrument to improve their brain activity, and many other things like that will help. Chapter 10 looks at thinking tactically, building your personalized plan. We've had these a few times over the chapters, the importance of it's not one size fits all in medicine. We know that doesn't work, not even in exercise, not even in diet, not even in sleep habits. All those 4 pillars are different for every individual. And so how can you build your own personalized plan with the help, in most cases, or in some cases, especially if you're going through some form of treatment, with the help of your medical practitioner and your doctors? Combine changes in exercise, nutrition, sleep, and emotional care for best results. A well-rounded lifestyle strategies is the foundation for long-term health. Chapter 11 goes deeper into exercise, which by far Dr. Attia says is the most powerful longevity drug. He says himself he used to focus more on diet and less on exercise, and now through his own experiences he knows, and through the eyes of his patients he has seen that exercise is the most powerful longevity drug. Physical activity is a cornerstone of health. There is no magic pill that will beat a good workout. Effective exercise includes strength training, aerobic fitness, power and stability improvement exercises. You need all those varied exercise routine to address all aspects of fitness. Should we ever stop exercising? No. Is it too late to start exercising? No. You can start in your 60s, 70s, whenever. Just get started. If you have not been doing it, start. But the earlier you start, remember the compounding effect, the earlier you start, the better it will be for you as you get older. Small, consistent efforts add up over time. Chapter 12 talks about preparing for the Centenarian Decathlon. What is that? He has mentioned this earlier. Imagine the physical tasks you would like to perform if you are to live to 100 years. Setting inspiring goals keeps you motivated to stay active. In corporate endurance, he talks about zone 2. I actually had not heard of zone 2 until I heard it from Dr. Attia, and then I went looking, researching, and I heard there's so much out there about zone 2. How important is it? Is it for everyone? Is it even necessary? High intensity and strength workouts. Should you be doing these even if you're older? Maybe it's a relative, your parents, or loved ones who are older. Can they still do this? It is possible. Will it improve their health? In many ways, it can. Chapter 13, he calls it the gospel of stability. He talks about stability and preventing injuries. Stability is the foundation of movement, simple exercises, finding a balanced training plan which prepares you for the challenges of later life. Stability, how to avoid falls. He talks He talks about how falls end up being the worst thing that can happen to senior citizens because of the many repercussions of the fall. It's not the fall itself that may lead to death, but it is the many ailments that will come from that fall. And how to avoid those falls is by being stable, stability exercises. Focus on movement quality to keep your body functioning as you age. Chapter 14 is on nutrition. This is a big one, I know. The science behind your diet. And he doesn't go into the battles of what diet is right. Really, he says the diet that is right for you may not be right for me, which is true, but he emphasizes on focusing on nutrients as opposed to a particular diet. And he has tried a few. And should we be able to change our diet if we need to? The answer is yes. Prioritize sufficient protein, healthy fats, and quality carbs. The right balance supports muscle, metabolism, and overall health. Use tools like continuous glucose monitoring to tailor your diet. Individual responses to food matter. What works for someone else might not work for you. Chapter 15 is putting nutritional biochemistry into practice, finding your eating pattern. Actionable steps include a practical guidance on creating a sustainable health and eating plan. Small changes in your daily diet can lead to significant health improvements. Focus on whole, nutrient-dense foods while minimizing added sugars and refined carbs. Chapter 16, he calls it the awakening, learning to love sleep. He tells a very interesting story of his awakening, and how sleep overtook him. And from that moment on, he learned how to pay attention to his sleep. Something he thought when he was younger that, sleep can wait. He will sleep later. And I've heard that saying that people say, I'll sleep when I die. No, you need sleep now. It is very important and it contributes in a major way to your overall health. The quality of sleep, not just sleep, but it's the quality of sleep, is essential for your brain function, mood, and physical recovery. Prioritizing sleep, making small adjustments, because sleep is one of the hardest areas for most people to adjust. It takes effort and practical steps to get into a good sleep routine if you're not used to it. But those small steps can dramatically improve your quality of sleep. Limiting screen times. We are all on screens right now, from work and play and leisure. We are all on screens. How limiting that and how it can improve your sleep. Chapter 17, being a work in progress. The high price of ignoring emotional health. A huge one for human beings. We tend to brush it aside, but it is important. On this channel, I talk a lot about self-awareness, and which plays a big role when it comes to your emotional health. Mental health and emotional state is crucial for overall health and longevity. A fulfilling life isn't possible without nurturing your emotional well-being. Eliminating chronic stress and loneliness, unresolved trauma, all of which undermine your physical health. Addressing emotional issues can improve both mental and physical outcomes. Engage in mindfulness. Go for therapy. Don't be afraid. And have social connections to build emotional resilience. Regular practices that support emotional health lead to a happier and healthier life. I haven't done such a deep dive into a book like I have done with this one. So I hope you're intrigued. I hope you'll be able to go and try and get yourself a copy. Like I said, you can purchase one, you can borrow one from the library, you can probably find an audio. It is also available in audio, because this book redefines aging, and it shows you that extending your life is not just about avoiding death, but about optimizing your quality of life. What I liked most about this book is how Dr. Peter Attia has integrated medical terms and storytelling. It's actually not a very hard book to read. Whether you understand the medical terms or not, he goes into depth to make you understand what he's talking about. For folks like you and me, the book's essential message is simple. By adopting consistent, practical habits, such as regular exercise, balanced nutrition, quality sleep, and nurturing emotional well-being, you can significantly delay the onset of chronic diseases and enjoy a more active, fulfilling life. In essence, this book empowers you to take charge of your health today so that you can live a better tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I would like to know what you found most interesting. I would like to know whether you're going to purchase this book. I would also like to know if probably you have already read this book and what are your thoughts about it. If you have any questions, if I would be able to answer, put them down in the comments. And like I said earlier, I enjoy reading the comments. I enjoy hearing the questions that my listeners have. And from those questions, I get inspiration for the next video. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and to share.